So I watched the boxing on Saturday, and we'll talk about it, what happened in the ring with Dave Allen and Makhmudov. I've got the highlights on the screen just to the right of me there playing now. It was a game effort for Dave Allen. It was a really good try. You know, he's never going to be sort of found wanting for effort or for desire, and his toughness, by the way, which is I felt what got him through the fight. But those things that I see from Dave Allen, the reason why I speak the way I speak about Dave Allen, I'm worried about him. I don't want to see him taking too many punishing nights like this. He's got a good team around him, and Jamie Moore and Nigel Tavers who know what to do, and Jamie's a very careful trainer, and I respect and like Jamie a lot, and I think he will not let Dave take too much stick. I'm literally just watching him walk back to the corner now on fight night. After it, I went on and I tweeted while it was happening after 3 rounds. Look, I think Makhmudov's won them 3 rounds pretty much at a canter, but I'm listening to a different story. And my words were, I don't understand the loving with Dave Allen at the moment. It wasn't I don't understand the love Dave Allen's getting. I'm not bitter and I'm certainly not jealous. It was I don't understand this loving with the commentary, where they're telling me I'm seeing something that I'm actually not seeing. And what I was watching was a pretty one-sided 3 rounds from Makhmudov, who looked big, who looked strong, who looked aggressive. And the hope was always for Dave Allen that he would tire later on in the fight. He didn't tire, and in fact it was the other way. Dave Allen tired, but that's understandable. There's no problem with that and no shame in that. It's a 12-round fight where you're trying your best. Sometimes he nearly punched himself out like in the 9th round. Understandable again. First time he's done 12 rounds since 2018 when he fought Leroy Thomas, and I said that on Monday when I did my show on TalkSport with Simon Jordan and my brother Callum. I think the thing with Dave Allen, what starts to wind me up when fans say, oh, he'll just go and win the British titles. It's very, very disrespectful to the British title, to British champions in the past, and to British heavyweight champions in the past. And my point and my argument is not on against Dave, but if it was so easy, why hasn't he done it already? And he hasn't done it already because I've got the list in front of me. In the last 6 or 7 British champions have been David Adelaide, Fabio Wardley, Joe Joyce, Daniel Dubois, Hughie Fury, Sam Sexton, Dylan White, Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, David Price, Tyson Fury, Derek Chisora, right the way back to Danny Williams. Now, Dave Allen doesn't beat any of them in my opinion. And there's an argument that he could have maybe held his own with Adelaide, or still possibly could. Maybe Hughie Fury or Sam Sexton, who knows? But the point being is, if it was so easy, go and do it. It's very difficult to do, to win that title. And I'm not just saying it because I've won it. I've seen Curtis Woodhouse put a picture of the belt up saying, all these fighters and these young kids saying now, oh, I'll just win the British. It's not a fallback. It never has been a fallback. It's a prestigious title. It should be held in that regard all the time. But it's a tough fight. It's a tough title to win. And you've got to be really good to win that British title. That was my issue with what was being said about on the fight from the weekend with Dave and Makhmudov. It was a game effort, and I hope Dave has made enough money to be able to walk away from the sport, because I said a long time ago I personally don't want to see him fight. I don't want to see him take too much stick, too many hard nights. He's a dad, he's got a family, he's a very, very likeable lad. I don't know anyone in the game who doesn't like him. I certainly like him, although I just speak the truth about it, where the fact that I like him is the reason that I don't want to see him take more stick, take more punishment, take too many shots that he has to take for the sake of making a few quid for his family, when there's more ways he can do it after boxing. He's very articulate. I thought he was really good on commentary and on punditry for television. I'm sure there'll be a job there for him somewhere down the line that he can get, but there's easier ways to do it than fighting 6'8", 6'9" fellas like Makhmudov who are built like that and can punch like that. He said after the fight how much he was hurt, and he hasn't been that hurt in a long time. And I saw the video, which everyone has seen, of when he got hurt by Usyk in that spar. If he's having concussions and he's getting hurt at this stage in his career, at this age in his career, then it's not going to be good for Dave. And all I care about is the fight. Is all I'm thinking about and caring about when I'm speaking about Dave Allen, who I'm watching now walking back to his corner after that hard fight, is Dave Allen. And I think the people around him, you know, will either agree or disagree. But if he can go and stay safe in his next fight, get an opponent that he can look good against and be safe against, and not really get into too much bother, then I'm all for it as long as he's safe. But if he's not safe and he's getting in with people like Makhmudov and he's having to take chances like that, I would personally rather see him retire. And that was the only thing I had to really say about that. So to keep this debate going, I also tweeted on Saturday that I felt David Price would have absolutely ironed Makhmudov out. And I'm talking about David Price back in his prime. I'm talking about David Price when he absolutely obliterated the likes of Audley Harrison and Sam Sexton, and walked through the British heavyweight division at the time before he met Tony Thompson, who obviously failed the 2 drug tests. And I had a lot of people pushing back, oh, behave yourself like Price because of his chin or this or that. David Price was an animal, and David Price did win the British title, and I feel Makhmudov was there for the taking on Saturday night. And had David been maybe a little bit better, that would have been the case. And again, no disrespect to Dave whatsoever, no disrespect really to Makhmudov. I think he's been found out already, and I think he is an accident sort of waiting to happen, but he's a lump, and if he hits you and he catches you clean, he will put you away. And I think that's all that people are seeing when I'm saying, look, David Price would have absolutely walked through him. Now, there's levels to boxing, we all know that, and you have your level, you find your level, and maybe on your day you'll beat someone who isn't your level, who's above you, but some days you'll lose to someone who isn't on your level either, by the way. But that's boxing, and that's what makes this game good. And I feel on Saturday night, Dave found his level, but Makhmudov possibly also found his level on the night. I think he made a point, I'm watching him in his interview now, he made a point of saying that, you know, Dave Allen was so tough and he's hurt his hands and he's never been in with anyone so tough, and it's the first time he's done 12 rounds. And I've got news for him, because the higher the level you step up, they're all tough, and you don't get there without being tough. And Billy Graham once said that to me. I remember getting out the ring and he said, look, they're all tough at the level you want to get to. You've got to get used to that now. With Makhmudov, I think he will come again. He will get the opportunity to try and take a step up after boxing against Dave Allen, because he's tough, he's big, he's durable, he's quite marketable. You know, just one look at him, you'll see. But I can't see him doing all that much after watching that performance against Dave Allen on Saturday night. So this section, I'm going to get into a few tweets, and I feel it's, you know, part and parcel of today's sporting nature, and it frustrates me. And there's a couple of shows by itself on there. I think a lot of people are listening to uneducated people on the sport of boxing, or other sports especially. But we have a big problem in boxing where a lot of people are listening to people who've never actually done the boxing, or never actually been in the ring, and they're talking their minds and speaking their opinions on boxing. And then the average fan on the street hears that and then regurgitates that, and all of a sudden that's the way they see boxing, that's their take on boxing. But some of the tweets I was receiving on Saturday night were a bit frustrating, to say the least. And I mentioned that I felt for Dave because I felt he was a bit of a gimmick, in the sense that he's tough, he's durable, he's likeable, he's the boy next door, he's the lad next door, he's the working class lad who'll get in with anyone, and I respect that massively. But I said he beat another lad who I feel is a gimmick in boxing, and it's a big ticket seller. His dad's a social media star at the minute, Johnny Fisher, and I felt that them 2 wins, although he didn't get the first one, we all know what happened in the first one. The second one, it was conclusive, and I felt that was unfortunately, or fortunately for Dave, because he's going to earn well, but unfortunately it's going to put him in a position where he might get hurt and come into a bit of bother, and I don't want to see that. And I got a reply, and I'll start reading them out. And this one was Jackson at Jackson. I think gimmick is a bit strong. I think Dave Allen could easily win a British title, Paul. There's levels. If Dave wants a number one no throw him in with TKV or Clark, he could win those. So firstly, obviously David Allen has already lost to Fraser Clark, and I'm not sure this fella Jackson knew that, but he's already lost to Fraser Clark, and it wasn't for the British title. Fraser Clark fights next for the British title on the BBC against Jamie TKV, and that's what he means by throw him in, and he could win one of those. There's an argument there that he could beat Jamie TKV, who knows, but I feel, in my opinion, that maybe not, and I don't think he would, but he's already lost to Fraser Clark. And it was just a frustrating tweet, again, as I say, and I wish people would more read. And then he's actually come back and put, that's my point, Dave can win a title, British heavyweight, to be more than happy with that, no issues whatsoever. It's a great belt. More the point of being a gimmick is harsh. Now, yeah, it is a great belt. It's a great belt for a reason. It's a great belt because it's very difficult to win. Now, I've won it, and I'm arguing with people on there who are saying I'm jealous or bitter of it when they're mentioning that, and the only reason I'm mentioning it is like it's a very, very difficult title to win, as has been proven in this case. Now, my argument and my issue has always been, oh, it's a fallback, I'll just go and win the British. The same way I see some kids in the amateurs losing to the fella that's just a bit too strong for them, and their attitude is, I'll just turn pro. Like, turning professional is a privilege. You've got to be good to turn professional in boxing. I know we've seen some, again, let's use the word, some gimmicks in the past where we've seen the likes of Freddie Flintoff turn professional, or a couple of others turn professional who shouldn't really be pros. At least they're having a good go and they're trying at it, and they're not sort of, you know, I will just turn pro as if it's going to be easy. They know how difficult it's going to be, and it is very difficult, and more to the point, it's a privilege to turn professional, and things like that, they piss me off and wind me up a little bit, yeah. But on to the next one. We had Daddy to a Tribe. Styles make fights, and Allen could beat Wilder, who doesn't seem to have a chin anymore. But at the end of the day, Allen was probably boxing a few levels above him today. Makhmudov losing to Kabayel, and the other one was a poor stoppage. Fringe world class. Allen is British level. And my reply to that was, he can't be British level because he hasn't won the British title. Now, people say British level as if it's a bad thing. It's not a bad thing, and it's actually, you know, if you can get there and you can be British champion, then it's a very good achievement. And I'm not just saying that because of myself and my brothers. You can see the pictures behind me with the British title with my brothers. We've all won it, and it's a very difficult thing to do, but it's also a very good belt, as he's saying. Now, it would be great for Dave Allen to win it. I was campaigning for him years ago to try and fight for the British title. I said this on TalkSport on Monday. I wanted to see him fight for the British title. I think when Dylan White had it years ago, or someone else had it at the time. I can't remember whether it was Hughie Fury or someone. But I wanted to see Dave Valentine win the British title back then, because I felt that would be a great achievement for him, and it would put his name in the record books for good. But as I say, people actually think it's a bit of an easy belt to win, as in a fallback. There's another one, you know, Phil Pearcey. I think he was genuinely serious, but he tried to make out he was trolling, or whatever they call it nowadays. And he's put Alan KO's Price, in my opinion. Price always struggled with that type of style. Again, not remembering that. David Price actually stopped Dave Allen in 10 rounds in 2019. And then another one, were you a gimmick when you fought Ward? And I replied, no, look, I just lost the world title fight. And I just lost the world title fight. I'd also won the British title twice then. And I fought Andrew Ward. It wasn't a gimmick, it was an opportunity for me. I wasn't there to win, I wasn't meant to win. I tried my best to win. It was just one of them things. I was picked as an opponent because I was a tough, durable lad. Wasn't a gimmick, but I'd certainly won the British title and held my own at the world stage as well. So again, you know, it always seems to get like this when you start speaking a bit of truth on Twitter and people don't like it. You know, it's just, I had Big John Fisher replying, Big John, Bosh, he's come back and put gimmick. I'll save this post, mate. And I went back to John and said before, you know, you don't need to save it. I'll say it whenever you want. I'm not being harsh. I'm not slagging Johnny off. I like Johnny. I like Dave. I think they're great for boxing. They're making a few quid for themselves and they're making a living. And I respect that from anyone. And I hope they both do really well. And I hope they both really prove me wrong, especially Johnny because he's younger. But he needs to remember, obviously, Johnny lost to Dave. And then Dave's losing to Makhmudov. And that's the level that they're at. And so it obviously says the level that Johnny's at the minute. Now, Johnny can come again. Johnny's a good, likeable lad. He's a big lad. He's a lump, you know, and I hope he does it. And I really hope he does it. I hope Big John comes back to me and rubs it in my face in future when Big Johnny does get his chance. I really hope he does take it with both hands, and I hope he does well. But at the moment, it's not looking that way. So yeah, that was the roundup for Twitter, and we'll be back with more next week.